Hi there, and welcome to this video where I'm joined by Peter Darling.
Hello.
Peter is a singer-songwriter, music composer, and music educator. And Peter and I have collaborated on many different projects in the past. And in this video, Peter's going to give us some top tips about songwriting. So Peter, the first point I've got here is how to write lyrics when you have no ideas. Could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, of course. This is something that I've often faced when I will just come sit down to write and I'll go, oh, I don't know what I want to write about at all. And it's terrifying. You've got like the blank Logic project file. You've got a blank piece of paper or a blank Word document or Pages document. And you're just like, I have no idea what I want to write. So I've got a couple of tips that I've found are really, really helpful just to at least start me off and get me writing something. The first thing is, I think it's really important to think in advance of writing what you want to write songs about. Because often what can happen is we'll just sit down and we'll start trying to write a song and then we'll go, right, we need to write lyrics. What do I want to write a song about? And in the moment, it's really hard to think of it. So it's always worth, just when you're watching TV or you're just sat around or you're making dinner, thinking about song concepts. Think about things like, oh, I really want to write a song about this subject. Or maybe it's you come up in your head, just a really cool line comes up with a really cool phrase and you go, oh, that's really cool. And then you open up your phone and you just type it in so you can remember it. Either that or it's you're watching a show, for example, and then two characters have really interesting dialogue and you just go, oh, that's a really cool phrase or a really cool word. I'll note that down. And I found that if I do that, when I come to actually write, and maybe I have some music going and it's sounding great, I can go, okay, let me have a look at my my old ideas. Like, what have I been thinking about, things I want to write about? And then that can slot in really nicely. So that's my first tip. The second tip is it's worth just practicing writing language and kind of getting into the mood of being able to just write. Because often what can happen is we're often searching for the perfect phrase, the perfect set of words in a certain amount of syllables that's just going to like tie a bow around the song, and then it's going to be like, oh, you're a lyrical genius. Often that doesn't happen just off the top of my head. So often what I can do is practice writing language. So that can be by journaling, for example. If you do use a journal, like just practice writing anything. Don't even think about what you're writing. It can be kind of incorporating stream of consciousness into your daily life, like just being sat there with a book and just writing loads of random stuff out. And then when you come back and look at it, you can go, oh, that was a really cool phrase. I need to remember that. And so basically that's just you collecting cool phrases and words and lines that you can use later. And it means that when you are actually in the moment and you're like, oh, I don't know what the next line should be, you can go, that's cool. I've got this note right here with all of my different phrases and lines that might work. Or I don't know what to write a song about. That's fine. I've got a note with all of my song concepts or titles or things like that. And it's all about making the process easier for you in the moment when you're creating.
So for melody writing, I actually get my phone and I sing in little melodies when I have them in my head all the time. I've got all these different these little memos of me just singing little melodies that now and again I'll go in and I'll work out on the keyboard.
The amount of times that I've been working on I've been asked to write a pitch for something, and I'm sat there at the computer and I'm going, I don't know what I'm going to write. I'm going to go to the loo, and I'll go to the toilet, and then it's often for me, it's those moments where I'm sat there and I just go, ooh, what's this? The amount of voice memos that I have on my phone of me sat on the loo going, that's my phone, by the way. And then I come back to the room where I'm recording and I go, I think I've got it. It's weird how often those bits of illumination or where the inspiration strikes happens away from the computer or the place you're recording. So it's really important that in those moments you have like something to record the idea so you can just come back and then develop it when you're at the studio.
Well, got smartphones nowadays, it's not that difficult.
Exactly. But some people are hygienic and they don't want to like touch their phone in the loo, which I completely understand. So sorry if this is offending anyone. We don't have to talk about the loo forever. But basically just have a quick way of recording your stuff that's not like your full mic setup, for example. You can always record it in a more polished way afterwards.
Like a lot of the time, if I set up the mics and I get everything all set up, by that point, I've kind of lost the idea and I've kind of lost the momentum.
Yeah.
So I like to have...
Yeah, I'm knackered.
In my studio setup, I've got everything arm's reach away. So I can grab a mic, my MIDI keyboard, my piano, everything's all arm's reach. So it's all ready to record as soon as possible because I don't want to lose those ideas.
Having a room that's just instantly set up, and you'll see this within footage of like the great studios around the world, like Electric Lady Studios, for example. They will, prior to the artist coming in, set everything up with mics. Everything's just ready to record. So when inspiration strikes, they don't just go, oh, that's really good. Wait, just give me like 15 minutes while I set up this pencil mic on this piano. It's just ready to go. And that's what we should be doing in our own like bedroom studio, for example. Just have everything ready to go. So at the flick of a button, you can record something and you're ready to work on the idea.
So the next question I've got here is, how do you write lyrics if you find it hard to open up and show emotions in your song?
Well, I think there's a couple of routes you could take that can be helpful. One is trying to write in character. So rather than writing from your point of view, find a character that you're interested in. It could be a real life character in a book or in a TV show or in a film. And then write from their point of view. It could also be a character that you just make up. You conjure this character up. The great thing about doing that is you can still put in your own emotions and be vulnerable, but you disguise it behind the fact that, oh, I've written in character, so it's not really me. So I found that really, really helpful. I've written so many songs in character, but they're basically me kind of exploring my own vulnerabilities and my own worries, but I've just kind of like disguised them behind this character. The other thing that I would say is you can do that, but I'd also still recommend that you try to be vulnerable within your lyrics if you're writing from your point of view. The reason for that is audiences respond to that. Like audiences respond to lyrics that feel like they're being lived by the vocalist, being lived by the artist. So it's really important to push ourselves to be vulnerable within our lyrics, because that's what audiences respond to. Often an audience can feel quite cold towards a song where it doesn't feel like the singer really believes what they're singing, or they've picked language that isn't very emotive, or doesn't seem to have a really clear emotional core. So it's still really important to try to be vulnerable and honest within your lyrics, because you're more likely to have listeners get invested in your song as a result.
So how do you write lyrics from the point of view of another person then?
So I do a lot of research. One thing that I will do is if it's a character that has already been created by someone else, what I'll do is I'll watch a lot of the show that they're in, for example, or I'll read the books that they're in and try and get a handle for their character, a handle for the sort of language that they use, maybe different quotes that they say, so that I can try and put those in the lyrics. I'll also read a lot about other people's interpretations of those characters, so maybe blogs or news articles. I'll also read around the subject, so I'll read a bit about the creator of that character and what they were trying to accomplish with that character. And it's basically all about just trying to get my head around the character, because I want to make them feel believable. I want them to feel like these are real emotions, authentic emotions that I'm displaying within this character. If I'm creating a character from scratch, what I will do is, again, do my research. So think about the age of the character, the gender, think about their race. I'll think about where they live. I'll do my research into their local area. So, for example, I have a song called Holly's Got a Ticket, where for years, all I had was a line that came to my head, which was, Holly's got a ticket for the night school bus. I didn't know what that meant, but I liked the sound of it. Holly's got a ticket for the night school bus. Felt like a really nice phrase. There was a lovely rhythm to it. So then what I did was I started researching, okay, Holly, to me, that sounds like the name of a lady who maybe she's in her 40s or her 50s. So that immediately helped me. I was like, okay, I'm writing from the point of view of this character. And then also I had the phrase night school bus, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do my research and see which places in the world have night schools and they have a bus service that takes people to that school. And I found out it was San Francisco. So then I started doing research about San Francisco, and I started looking at, okay, I want this character to be kind of from a rougher part of San Francisco. So I started doing my research of that, and I started trying to include place names and people and things like that, and language that felt appropriate for this character. And so it just came from this one line, was me then exploring, okay, what age is she? Which places in the world have a night school? And it just fleshed out that character and made them feel more believable to me, and then hopefully more believable to the listener as well.
So it's like writing a story, really. Rather than just writing about your emotions, you're creating a story in your lyrics.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also sometimes, like, it's in that case, it was me creating a real story or narrative. But sometimes you don't want to tell an entire story. You don't want to tell Lord of the Rings in a song. You just want to kind of capture one particular moment in this character's life. But it's really worth getting a sense of where they are within their story. Maybe they're experiencing heartbreak. Maybe they've just fallen in love with someone. Maybe they're really angry about something. And just make sure that you're using language and details that feel believable to the listener.
The next point here is something I have problems with, is how do you finish a song? So how do you wrap up your song? You realize it's done, and finish the song.
Yeah.
Something, I always struggle with, but I'd like to hear what you do.
The thing that I struggle with is that I want the art that I make to be perfect, and ultimately I will never make it perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect song, no matter how passionate we feel about different pieces of music that we love. And also, I'm never going to write a perfect song. I really wanted to when I was younger. I was really keen on, okay, what makes that song so good? And obviously there are songs that are incredible and that have changed our lives and we love, but there's still always faults in every single song. Sometimes we just don't want to see them. And that includes within our own work. So one thing that helps me is that I remind myself that I'm never going to write a perfect song. Therefore, at some point, I'm going to have to tell myself that it's done. Or at least I've done what I can with it. So things that I'll do are I try to see the song that I'm writing in terms of drafts, like the first draft of a novel, for example. And by doing that, it reminds me that the idea that I'm coming up right now in order to finish the song doesn't have to be perfect straight away. I can always make it better. And then also as well, it reminds me that not every idea that I'm going to come up with is incredible. In the moment, I may think I have just completed songwriting, but actually I come back to it 2 weeks later and I go, there's a bit of work that needs doing here. So I find it really important to constantly think of the music that I'm working on in terms of drafts, and always feeling like this isn't finished. Even if I'm happy with it, there's probably something that I can improve. Or if I'm really not happy with the idea that I've come up with and I'm like, oh, this is rubbish, I can't write, everything like that, which happens a lot to me, I have to remind myself, don't worry about this. It's a first draft. There's always something good in any idea we come up with. It's just now the challenge for me is to work out, okay, what's the thing that I think works well within this idea? And then how can I improve everything else around that idea to kind of match its level as well? So I find that really helpful for me, is just try and fill the space that I have. Maybe it's a middle section that I need to write. Just fill the section. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always make it better. But as long as you filled that section, it makes your life a lot easier, and it kind of takes the pressure off a bit. You can always make it better.
Yeah, with me, it's a deadline, master and engineer. So if I give myself a deadline, I have to get it as good as possible to that point, because in my eyes or my ears, it's never going to be done. It's never going to be finished. I just have to get it as good as possible to that point. And the next one is I can master music, but I like working with a master engineer, because I know as soon as I send it to them, it's done. I'm not going to do anything else in it. That's it. So otherwise, if I master it myself, I'll always go back, I'll tweak the mix, I'll keep on working on it, and it will never get done. So yeah, the same. I'm never going to write a perfect song, but hopefully I'll write one that a few people enjoy, and that's all I really care about.
Also, as well, like, that's a really good point about how bringing someone else into the process is really helpful, because they can just provide that extra sense of validation that you need. Because often I am the worst judge of my own music. Depending on how I feel in the day, I might think this is the greatest piece of music I've ever written, or I might think this is the worst piece of music I've ever written. It's really useful to have a collaborator or an engineer who can just say to you, yeah, that works. And then you go, oh, okay, great. They think that works. So that's great. Like, I'm thinking recently, I wrote a song for you. You had an instrumental and you needed a top line. I remember writing this thing and going, oh, I don't know if I'm done very well here. I don't know how good this is, but it was really reassuring to just give it to you and you go, great, fantastic, that's what I needed. And it almost takes the decision making out of your own hands or your own head. You can just go, right, well, Thomas thinks it's great, so good, we're done. And that can be really helpful. Sometimes songwriting can feel like a really solitary experience, any sort of composition. If you're just doing it by yourself, you'll never really know when you're finished or whether you've written something that you think is effective or other people will like. Bringing other people in, trusted people that you trust their opinion, really useful and can help you just either come up with new ideas to fix a problem, or they can just tell you, great, you've done it, you can stand down now.
Yeah, there's a song we're working on at the moment called Cereal for Dinner. And I listened to it the other day and I was like, this is amazing. This is a great piece of music. I listened to it a day later. This is terrible. Why do I even bother? It's so crazy how your emotions change day to day when you hear your own music. It's really bizarre.
And you know what, as well, probably in 2 weeks' time, you'll hear it again and you'll go, no, there's some really good stuff in this. I don't see why what was wrong with me? And ultimately, like, we can't, I genuinely feel like we are the worst judges of our own art that we make. Because it's so subject to how we feel in the moment and the emotion of it. And that's why, like, as soon as you said Cereal for Dinner, I was like, that's a great title. I love that title. And also, I bet as well, you sent it to me, I would be able to go, do you know what? There's loads of cool stuff in here. This works, this works, this works, this works. This thing here, maybe it could be a little bit better, but here's some ways that you could maybe improve it a little bit. And immediately just bringing someone else in encourages you, because you've got someone who's telling you all the stuff you've done right, which is always nice. And then also, hopefully, they're giving you suggestions of where you could go next. And it just makes your life easier as a creator.
Yeah. Well, I shall be sending you this song after this conversation.
Do it. Yeah, do it. I really want to hear it. It's such a good title. I love it.
I've got artwork made for it already, and I'm planning out a music video in my head. So hopefully the song's good, because if it's no point in doing a music video and artwork if the song's rubbish. So I'd like to hear your opinion.
It's fine. We can always make it better. Do you know what I mean? It's fine. It'll be great.
Anyway, so that is some songwriting tips with Peter Darling. Thank you for joining me, Peter.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
If you like this video, remember to give it a like. And if you've got any comments, questions, feedback, comment section below, and we'll talk to you soon.